Last summer, I was feeling kind of bored. I was in between training cycles and I didn't have any concrete goals. A lot of people in a situation like that might take some time away from the gym, maybe pick up a hobby. As for me, I decided to deadlift every day for 30 days. And I survived. In fact, I actually recently hit a lifetime PR in the deadlift. So let's talk about it. Let me tell you why I did that, what I did, and if I would do it again. So to start, why did I deadlift every day for 30 days? Firstly, I've always loved the deadlift. I think the deadlift is an amazing movement, and I had a lot of success with it early in my lifting career. But for the last 4 or 5 years, I've really been focused on bodybuilding, on trying to build as much mass as possible. And while I think the deadlift is a good lift for beginner lifters, it's not great for more intermediate or advanced lifters who are trying to put on size. It's just too general. You'll absolutely put mass on your frame, but it's also going to come with a lot of fatigue, and it's just not going to be targeted to the tissues you really want to build. And so I haven't really emphasized the deadlift in years. I've done variations, some stiff leg deadlifts, etc., but I haven't really focused on the movement, and I just missed it. I thought, okay, well, I haven't done it in a while. Why don't I do a lot of it and see what happens? Secondly, I am, as of the shooting of this video, 39. I was 38 last summer, and that's, kind of old. And I wanted to prove to myself that I could do a thing like this, that I could train really hard, maybe in a kind of stupid way, and walk away unscathed. I wanted to do it for my sense of self. And lastly, I'm a person who makes social media content. I posted this challenge on Instagram. You should follow my Instagram. And I did it in part because I was hoping to attract attention. I'm not ashamed to admit that. It was an experiment and it was fun to do it. So what did I actually do? What did this consist of? Well, again, I deadlifted every single day in a row for 30 days with the intent on hitting a new PR, a new 1 rep max at the end of that 30-day cycle. And the way I accomplished this was I performed a number of variations. So I didn't just max out on the conventional deadlift every day. I did a different variation every day of the week and cycled through them. So I was doing conventional deadlifts, pause deadlifts, sumo deadlifts, pause sumo deadlifts, speed pulls, rack pulls, and even some weird movements like an unevenly loaded deadlift and a Jefferson curl. I kept the volume relatively low, and I tried to keep the intensity relatively low as well. Again, I wasn't trying to max out every day because I knew that would lead to burnout. The way I set it up was essentially my first day of the week was my heaviest day, and so that was the day I was using to sort of test my progress and see how close I was to hitting a new PR. If I recall correctly, I think the first Monday I did 405 for a couple sets of 3. Then the next Monday I did 455 for a couple sets of 3. Then I did sets of 2 the following week, hit a PR, and then prepared to max. Beyond that, I was still training my upper body 3 times a week and doing cardio, but I wasn't doing anything else for my lower body. It just seemed like it was going to be too much stress and I wouldn't be able to recover from it. So what happened? What would I do differently? Well, again, I didn't get hurt. I managed to do the whole program. I didn't take any days off. I didn't walk away with any injuries. But the program, to be honest, didn't really work. I did technically hit a lifetime PR. At one point, I deadlifted 520 for 1. But that wasn't a real PR because I'd done rep work previously, like 6 months before, that suggests that I had a higher 1 rep max. So the program didn't really work. So definitely, as written, I wouldn't do it again. There were a number of issues, a number of mistakes that I made. I think the biggest mistake I made was that most of my variations just didn't really carry over to my conventional deadlift. So for example, I was training the sumo deadlift twice a week. I had never pulled sumo before, and I mostly just wanted to see what it felt like. I think there are some people whose conventional deadlift benefits from their sumo, but because my sumo was so untrained and unwieldy, there really was no carryover. It was just wasted time and energy. I also think the rack pulls I actually pulled those out at one point. Those were a terrible, terrible idea. I thought initially I would do the rack pulls because they would help to train my nervous system and prepare me for the heavier weights, but they were just added stress. They didn't help at all, and they made me feel terrible. I also think that the sort of fun deadlift variations I was doing, the unevenly loaded deadlift and the Jefferson deadlift, while they were a good sort of mental break, again, they added nothing. So mostly I just wasn't getting enough specific work in, and I was just fatiguing myself. This may be a controversial take, but I also think that the conventional deadlift isn't really best built by doing the conventional deadlift. You can actually build a conventional deadlift very well by squatting, by doing quad movements, and by doing hamstring movements. So maybe a more effective training protocol, even if I just wanted to train every day, was I could have done very easy conventional deadlifts most of the week, but supplemented that with other leg work to really drive progress and help to build some muscle during that period. Because again, I was doing a ton of work that wasn't contributing to anything, and I was just doing the primary lift once a week, and I think that actually was probably insufficient to drive progress. So what happened was the worst of both worlds. I did a ton of work and got overly fatigued. I think I was overreached by the end, but I also wasn't doing sufficient work to drive the deadlift. But was it a fun process? That's kind of hard to say. I mean, again, I didn't get hurt, like I said, which is key, but I didn't feel great. I experienced some strange discomforts during this period of time. I started to notice around like week 3 that my rib cage just felt like really tight, sort of battered and bruised. That did improve. I also noticed that my lats were getting really sore just from holding the bar all the time. And I did start to develop some hip discomfort towards the end. Again, all of that went away, it faded. There was no permanent damage, but it wasn't great. And I will say the last week or so, I just didn't feel great. I was very clearly overreached and overly fatigued. So that part of it was not fun. But from a mental standpoint, it was kind of an awesome exercise. There's something very empowering about doing a difficult thing day after day after day. And what I did find throughout the process was that I completely lost all fear of the deadlift. If you deadlift on Monday, deadlift on Tuesday, deadlift on Wednesday, and deadlift on Thursday, by Friday, you're not worried about the deadlift. You're not thinking about the deadlift. It's pretty much automatic at that point. And I do think that my technique improved. I think my mentality improved. And I think that even though I was tired and fatigued, I was actually attacking the movement with more vigor and more focus by the end. And that was a huge benefit. Overall, I definitely wouldn't recommend this. I've never had anyone train in this way. I will not be training this way in the future, but I do think it was a useful exercise, at the very least, to just build up my mind and my resiliency. I kind of think that at some point everyone should do something a little stupid, a little bit beyond their capabilities, just so they can know where their capabilities lie. If you never truly push yourself, if you never try to find the edge of that cliff, you're not going to know how far you can fly or what it's like to fall. And I think that we need to do that. Life is cushy and easy, and sometimes we need to work to make it hard. So no, I'm not going to train like this again. I don't think you should train like this, and I don't think this is the best way to make gains, but I definitely don't regret it, and I'm proud that I did it. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any more questions about this. If you're truly curious, I can send you the program. Again, I'm not recommending it, but I do think it's interesting as sort of a training artifact. Please don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe. Appreciate you.